All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're doing something a bit different, but I promise you it is incredibly practical. We are translating a deeply moving documentary about an Indian radio repairman into a full-on executive briefing. Think of this as a masterclass on business longevity, strategic pivots, and building the ultimate customer experience.
Take a look at this number, 58. That's exactly how many years 78-year-old Mohan Sharma has successfully run his repair shop, Sharma Radio, in Pune. Now, as executives, we know that surviving for nearly 6 decades through massive industry-altering technological disruption is basically the holy grail of business. So how exactly did he pull this off?
To figure that out, we're going to break this briefing down into 5 key areas. 1. An executive summary of Sharma Radio. 2. The true value proposition. 3. Community as network effects. 4. Succession and knowledge transfer. And finally, 5. The ultimate brand legacy.
Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, Executive Summary, Sharma Radio.
Sharma Radio's lifecycle is literally a masterclass in resilience. The shop was founded back in 1968, and it absolutely thrived during the golden age when radios were, well, essential. But then came the smartphone era. That was a massive tech shift that wiped out countless competitors. Yet, Mohan adapted. He essentially transitioned his shop into a sort of living museum and legacy institution right up until his retirement. He survived the rise of streaming apps not by fighting the new technology, but by doubling down on exactly what software simply couldn't offer.
Which brings us to Section 2, the true value proposition.
So, what was his secret? Notice the stark contrast and strategic mindset here. If Mohan had a standard commodity mindset, he'd just be fixing hardware and replacing parts, right? And honestly, if he did that, he would have been priced out years ago. But his mindset was completely different. He was in the business of restoring memories and bringing back forgotten voices. He wasn't competing on technical repairs at all. Instead, he was delivering an irreplaceable, highly emotional customer experience. Every single morning, Mohan unlocks his creaking wooden door at 6 a.m. He wipes down the radios, switches on his work lamp, and tackles his day with this core belief. Every silent radio still has a story waiting inside. This is such a powerful example of how a true, deeply felt purpose drives a business. He understood that his clients weren't bringing him broken electronics. They were bringing him broken connections to their past.
Let's look at a really practical application of this. There's this moment in the documentary where a young woman brings in her late grandfather's dusty wooden radio. She's literally seeking the voice of her childhood. Mohan spends hours meticulously restoring this specific unit. And when that warm sound finally fills the room, the customer just closes her eyes in complete awe. Seeing her face light up like that proves the immense power and, honestly, the unassailable competitive advantage of delivering profound emotional value.
Moving right along to Section 3, Community as network effects.
You have to remember, during the golden age of radio in India, these devices weren't just isolated personal electronics. They were the main delivery system for critical shared content. Things like cricket commentaries, evening songs, vital emergency broadcasts, and even bedtime stories. They were essentially the original social networks, bringing people together long before the internet was even a thing. As Mohan himself noted, back then, one radio could bring an entire neighborhood together. Think about that. During major cricket matches, he'd stay up late into the night repairing radios, simply because nobody wanted to miss the broadcast. If we look at this from an executive perspective, his shop was the essential maintenance node, keeping an entire community network online. He positioned his business as an absolutely indispensable pillar of the local ecosystem.
Let's pivot to Section 4, Succession and Knowledge Transfer.
At one point, a local college student who's fascinated by vintage electronics starts hanging around the shop. Now, Mohan doesn't just hand the kid a manual and wish him luck. He teaches him a highly methodical troubleshooting process. Remove the tiny screws, check the wires, replace the worn capacitors, and carefully solder the broken connections. He actually teaches him how to read the circuit diagrams to bring the hardware back to life. It is a textbook example of how to do institutional knowledge transfer the right way.
But it goes deeper than just technical training. It elevates to high-level strategic thinking. Mohan tells him, never replace a part just because it's old. First, understand why it stopped working. Now, the documentary rightly points out that this is a lesson about life as much as it's about electronics. But for us, this is an absolute masterclass in strategic problem solving.
If we translate that advice into corporate speak,
Mohan is effectively teaching his apprentice root cause analysis, and we all know that's a critical skill for any business leader. Just think about it for a second. How often in the corporate world do we just swap out a piece of software or fire a vendor just because it's old or currently failing? We do it without ever stopping to understand the systemic failure. Mohan is reminding us to pause, investigate, and actually treat the root cause, not just the symptom.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 5, the ultimate brand legacy.
Over his long tenure, Mohan built profound brand equity. For instance, when an old community radio station was closing down, they didn't just toss out their gear. No, they sent their original receiver straight to Mohan so he could restore it for a museum. And on his actual retirement day, his customers didn't just passively watch his shop close. They showed up. They brought flowers, photos, and radios he had repaired decades earlier. His retirement wasn't just the end of a business. It was a community event, honoring a legacy of deep gratitude. Now that is the absolute definition of brand loyalty.
On his final night, he repairs one last transistor, listens to a soft melody, and switches off the workshop light for the very last time. And he summarizes his true mission statement so beautifully, saying, "People think I repaired radios, but all my life I brought forgotten voices back to the people who needed them most." He had absolute, crystal-clear clarity on what business he was truly in.
So, as you reflect on this explainer and Mohan's incredible 58-year run, I want to leave you with a provocative question about the legacy of your own leadership. When you close your doors, what voices will your business leave behind? Are you just fixing hardware and pushing commodities, or are you building a legacy that resonates long after you've clocked out? Thank you so much for joining me for this briefing, and I'll catch you in the next one.